Time value of money. We assume that money has a different value depending on when that money occurs. We refer to this as the time value of money. The basic premise is that the value of a dollar today is somehow different than the value of that same dollar at some point in the future. Some of the reasons for this assumption are that money has opportunity cost associated with it. In other words, if you have the money today, there are certain things you could do with it that would help it to gain in value. Also, if you don't receive the money until a later point in time, the assumption is that that money might have a different value attached to it because of something called inflation, which affects the overall value of it. So basically we assume that money does have a different value depending on when it occurs. Money travels forwards, we call that calculating a future value. Sometimes we will also bring money backwards in time, we call that calculating a present value. And occasionally we will calculate something called a payment, which also can travel backwards and forwards in time. One of the most effective things that you can do as you study time value of money is to get into the habit of drawing a diagram of what is going on. It can be very helpful to try to draw a picture to help illustrate whether the money is traveling forwards in time or coming backwards in time. Identify which variables you already know, and then you can very easily identify the variables that we don't yet know, and that helps us to understand what we're trying to solve, which equations we need to use, those types of things. So this is just an example of a very simple diagram showing present value at the beginning of a time period, future value out at the end of a time period, and some other variables that might be helpful in creating a calculation. The time value of money equations that we will study in this class are future value of a single amount, present value of a single amount, and then both future and present values of an annuity. We'll also learn how to solve for other variables such as interest rate and number of time periods and payments. One of the things that becomes interesting as we master the basic time value money equations is that we can combine them to solve more complex or compound problems. And multiple part problems actually become a very useful way to look at real world solutions, things like valuation of businesses, retirement planning, planning for loans or borrowing, all involve multiple time value of money calculations.